Shabbat Shalom. And on behalf of Bet David Santon, Bet Menorah Pretoria, and Bet David in Durban, welcome to our service this morning. We invite you to sponsor a virtual service in memory of a loved one, to celebrate a simcha, or just to show your support for Bet David and its congregants. During the service, the name of the sponsor will scroll at the bottom of the screen. This morning's service is sponsored by Lewis Kling and Amanda Douglas in memory of their late Aunt Madeline, or Lolly Kling. The sermon will be delivered by Rabbi Elisheva Salamo from San Francisco. Feel free to send comments and greetings in the live chat. Shabbat Shalom. The service this morning begins on page 192 with Ma Tovu.
Ma Tovu alecha Yaakov, Mishkatecha Yisrael. Ma Tovu alecha Yaakov, Mishkatecha
Page 194. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher yatsa et ha'adam b'chokhmah, uvara bo nekavim, chalulim, galoi v'yadua lifnei kisei kevodecha, she'im yefatech echad mehem, o yesatem echad mehem, אי אפשר להתקיים ולעמוד לפניך. ברוך אתה אדוני, רופא כל בשר ומפליא לעשות. Page 196. We now turn to page 198 for Nisim B'chol Yom, which will be read by Diane McCall.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lasech vivina, להבחין בין יום ובין לילה. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, pokeach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, zokef kefufim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, rokah haaretz al hamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamechin mitzadei gaveh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, malbish arumim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hanotein laya'ef koach. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hama'avir sheina me'enai utnuma me'afapai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani b'tzelem Elohim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani bat chorim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, ozer Yisrael bigvura. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, oter Yisrael b'tifara. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
We continue on page 206 at the bottom. These are the obligations without measure, which enhance our world, whilst building credit in the world to come. They are honoring one's father and mother, engaging in deeds of compassion, arriving early for study, morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, visiting the sick, providing for the wedding couple, accompanying the dead for burial, being devoted in prayer, and making peace among people. And the study of Torah encompasses them all. We continue now on page 212, Nisim B'Kol Pesukei de Zimra. Baruch she'amar v'haya ha'olam, Baruch hu. Baruch oseh v'reshit, Baruch omer v'oseh, Baruch gozer u'makayem, Baruch merachem al haaretz, Baruch merachem al habriot, Baruch meshalem shachar tov l're'av, Baruch chai la'ad v'kayam la'netzach, Baruch podeo matzil, Baruch shemo. With songs of praise we extol you and proclaim your sovereignty, for you are the source of life in the universe, one God, life of the universe, praised and glorious ruler. Your name is eternal. Blessed are you, Eternal One, sovereign, who is glorified through praise. Baruch atah Adonai, melech mehulal batishbachot. Page 214. Mizmor shir leyom HaShabbat, tov lehodot l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. A psalm, a song for Shabbat. It is good to praise God, to sing hymns to your name, O Most High, to proclaim your steadfast love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night. With a 10-stringed harp, with voice and lyre together, you have gladdened me by your deeds, O God. I shout for joy at your handiwork. How great are your works, Eternal One! How very subtle your designs! A brute cannot know, a fool cannot understand this. turn now to page 215 and we welcome Roger Shuble, who will be leading us in Ashrei.
Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha, Odi Hallelujah Selah. Ashrei Ha'am Shekacha Lo, Ashrei Ha'am Shadonai Elohav. Tehillah leDavid arumimcha, Elohai HaMelech, va'avarecha shimcha leolam va'ed. Bechol yom avarechecha, ve'ha'elah shimcha leolam va'ed. Gadol Adonai umehulal me'od, ve'ligdulato ein cheker. Dol לשבח מעשיך, וגבורותיך יגידו. הדע כבוד אוהדיך, ודברי נפלאותיך עשיך. ועזוז נורותיך יאמרו, וגדולתך אספרנה. זכר רב טובך יביעו, וצדקתך ירננו. חנון ורחום אדוני, ערך אפיים וגדול חסד. טוב אדוני להכל, ורחמיו על כל מעשיו. יודוך אדוני כל מעשיך, וחסידיך יברכוך. כבוד מלכותך יאמרו, וגבורותיך ידברו. להודיע לבני אדם גבורותיו. וכבוד אדם מלכותו, מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים, וממשלתך בכל דור ודור. סומך אדוני לכל הנופלים, וזוקף לכל הכפופים. עיני כל אליך יסברו, ואתה נותן להם את אוכלם בעיתו. פותח את ידיך, ומשביע לכל חי רצון. צדיק אדוני בכל דרכיו, וחסיד בכל מעשיו. קרוב אדוני לכל קורב, לכל אשר יקראו וימת. רצון יבראיו יעשה, ואת שבתם ישמע ויושיעם. שומר אדוני את כל אוהביו, ואת כל השעים ישמיד. תהילת אדוני ידבר פי, ויברך כל בשר שם קודשו לעולם ועד. ואנחנו נברך יה מעתה ועד עולם. הללויה.
Hallelujah, 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 בקודשו. Hallelujah, hallelujah, בקריאה עוזו. Hallelujah, בגבורותיו. Hallelujah, כרוב גודלו. Hallelujah, בטל
to page 222. O God, in the power of your strength, great in the glory of your name, mighty forever, awesome in amazing deeds. The ruler who sits on a high and exalted throne. O God, your name is holy and exalted. The psalmist has said, rejoice in the eternal one, your righteous. Praise suits the upright. In the mouths of the upright you will be praised, and in the words of the righteous you will be blessed. In the tongue of the faithful you will be exalted, and in the midst of the holy you will be sanctified. In the multitude of choirs of your people, the house of Israel, your name is to be glorified in joy in every generation, O our sovereign. Yishtabach shimcha la'ad malkeinu, ha'el ha'melech ha'gadol v'ha'kadosh b'shamayim u'va'aretz. Ki lecha na'eh Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu, shir u'shvacha, halel v'zimra, oz u'memshala, netzach gedula u'gvura, tehillah v'tiferet, Kudusha u'malchut, berachot v'hodaot, me'ata v'ad olam. Baruch atah Adonai, el melech gadol b'tishbachot, el ha'hodaot, Adon ha'niflaot, ha'boche b'shirei zimra, melech el chai ha'olamim. We turn now to page 224, and for those in this shul, please rise. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, v'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, b'gala uv'zman kariv v'imeru. Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevorach, Leolam umei umaya yitbarach yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpo'ah v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithada v'yithalel v'yithalal shemei dekudusha brichu le'elam min kol brichata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata Damiran Belma Veimaru. Amen. Page 226. Page 228. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, yotzeh or uvorei choshech, oseh shalom uvorei et hakol, hameir la'aretz v'ladarim aleha berachamim, ובטובו מחדש בכל יום תמיד מעשה וראשית. מה רבו מעשיך אדוני? כולם בחוכמה עשית, מלאה הארץ קנייניך. תתברך אדוני אלוהינו על שבח מעשה ידיך, ועל מאורי אור שעשית יפארוך סלע. אור חדש על ציון תאיר, ונזכה כולנו מהרה לאורו. ברוך אתה אדוני יוצא המאורות. Page 230. אהבה רבה אהבתנו אדוני אלוהינו, חמלה גדולה ותרחמת עלינו. בעבור אבותינו שבטחו בך ותלמדם חוקי חיים, כן תחננו ותלמדנו. המרחם רחם עלינו ותן בליבנו להבין ולהשכיל, לשמוע, ללמוד וללמד, לשמור ולעשות ולקיים את כל דברי תלמוד תורתך באהבה. Enlighten our eyes with your Torah. Focus our minds on your midst. Unite our hearts in love and reverence for your name. Then we will never feel shame, never deserve rebuke, and never stumble. Having trusted in your great and awesome holiness, we shall celebrate your salvation with joy. Gather us in peace from the four corners of the earth, and lead us upright to your land. For you, our God, work wonders. You chose us. Truly you drew us near to your great name, that we might acknowledge you, declaring you one in love. Blessed are you, Eternal One, who chooses your people Israel in love. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher ba'amo Yisrael, ba'ahava. Page 232, the Shema. You may be seated as we turn to page 234. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וכשאתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל, ואמרת עליהם, ועשו להם ציצית, על כנפי בגדיהם לדורותם. ונתנו על ציצית הכנף פתיל תכלת, והיה לכם לציצית, וראיתם אותו, וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני, ועשיתם אותם. ולא תתורו אחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם, אשר אתם זונים אחריהם. למען תזכרו, ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, Ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liyot lachem le'Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem emet. Page 239. Emet, there is no place where you are not. Even in the wilderness, there is your word. Emet, that pen strokes of lightning, white fire, black flame, stir the soul's passion, guide our sacred way. True and enduring is Torah. Your truth for us is certain and established, now and forevermore. Like Moses, Miriam, and all Israel, we sing out and rejoice.
מי כמוך פעלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדע בקודש. נורא תהילות עושה פלא, נורא תהילות עושה פלא.
We now turn to page 242 for the tefillah or Amidah.
Adonai sefatai tiftachu fi yagitei latecha. Adonai sefatai tiftachu fi yagitei latecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'Elohei Imotenu Elohei עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם, ועזרת שרה.
Page 246. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה הכל אתה, רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, נזריח השמש ומוריד הטל. מחכל חיים בחסד, מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך? מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה. ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה הכל. Page 248.
נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מקום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה, ואמר.
קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ כבודו.
אדיר אדירנו, אדוני אדוננו, מאדיר שמך בכל הארץ.
ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו.
אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, הוא מלכנו, הוא מושיענו, והוא ישמיענו ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיך.
ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהיך ציון לדור ודור.
ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נעתיש, קדושתך נעתיש. ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש, לעולם לעולם ועד. לטובתו, לטובתו, לטובתו נגיד גודלך. לטובתו, לטובתו, לטובתו נגיד גודלך. ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נעתיש, קדושתך נעתיש. ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש, לעולם לעולם ועד.
We turn to page 250. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. Page 252. אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, רצה במנוחתנו, קדשנו במצוותיך, ותן חלקנו בתורתך. שבענו מטובך, ושמחנו בשועתך.
וטהר ליבנו, וטהר ליבנו, וטהר ליבנו לעבדך באמת. וטהר ליבנו, וטהר ליבנו, וטהר ליבנו לעבדך באמת. Da 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 da, hoi! Da 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 da, da 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 da. ותהה ליבנו, ותהה ליבנו, ותהה ליבנו לעבדך באמת. ותהה ליבנו, ותהה ליבנו, ותהה ליבנו לעבדך באמת.
והנחילנו אדוני אלוהינו, באהבה ורצון שבת קודשך, וינוחו בה ישראל מקדשי שמך. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. Page 255. רצה אדוני אלוהינו בעמך ישראל, ותפילתם באהבה תקבל, ותהי לרצון תמיד עבודת ישראל עמך. ברוך אתה אדוני שאותך לבדך ביראה נעבוד. On this holy Shabbat, may we draw nearer to life, to peace and to joy. May we find true rest, holiness in our deeds, worth in our study of Torah. Let us feed on the love of goodness. Let us drink from the love of goodness. Restrain our thirst for excess and cleanse our hearts to serve life well. On this holy Shabbat, may we draw nearer in life, in peace and in joy. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levadecha beyira na'avod. Page 256. Modim anachnu lach, she'atah hu Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu, le'olam va'ed. Tzu chayenu, magei nish'enu, atah hu ledor vador. Nodeh lecha unsapeh tehilatecha. Al chayenu hamasurim beyadecha, va'al nishmotenu hapekudot lach, va'al nisecha shebechol yom imanu, va'al niflotecha v'tovotecha shebechol eit erev avoke v'tzoharayim. Hatov ki lo chalu rachamecha, v'hanrachem ki lo tamu chasadecha, me'olam kivinu lach.
וכל החיים ינוח הסלע ויעללו את שמחה באמת. האל ישועתנו ועזרתנו.
Baruch atah Adonai hatov shimcha, ulecha na'el lehodot.
שים שלום, טובה וברכה, חן וחסד ורחמים ורחמים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל ישראל עמך. ברכנו אבינו כולנו כאחד בעוד פניך, כי עוד פניך נתת לנו, אדוני אלוהינו.
שים שלום, טובה וברכה, חן וחסד ורחמים ורחמים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל ישראל עמך.
תורת חיים ואהבת חסד, ואהבת חסד, וצדקה וברכה ורחמים, ורחמים וחיים ושלום.
שים שלום, טובה וברכה, חן וחסד ורחמים ורחמים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל ישראל עמך.
וטוב וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. ברוך אתה אדוני, ברכו ברוך שמו, המברך את עמו ישראל בשלום,
אמן. שים שלום, טובה וברכה, חן וחסד ורחמים ורחמים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל ישראל עמך.
We now turn to page 260 and pause for a moment of silent prayer. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, O God, my rock and my redeemer. We now come to the Torah service, but before we start with that, I'd like to call on Rabbi Elisheva to say a few words about the Torah portion.
Shabbat Shalom, and welcome to our extended sanctuary from my holy space to yours. We gather together today to read B'halotcha, the portion where so many things happen. And it is very possible that this is in fact the portion that contains the end of one book of the Torah, the whole of another book, and then the beginning of another book. As you know, the part where the ark is carried and then gets settled is bracketed by two nuns. And some of the rabbis say, well, these are here to say that this is a separate books in the Torah. So if that's the case, the sixth book, which would still be in the book of Numbers, begins with complaints. And on some level, that makes a certain degree of sense because the people are going to be complaining back and forth and on and off for a good chunk of their journey. And then even once they reach the promised land, it's not going to get a whole lot better all the time. So here we have the people who are complaining and we don't know why. Unfortunately, there is some sort of a fire that breaks out in the camp, and they call to Moses, and Moses makes the fire die down. Now, this sounds quite similar to the plagues, doesn't it? Where things aren't working well, there is some natural and unexpected event, natural as in it could happen, and the people, in this case Israel, in last case Pharaoh, call out and Moses intermediates and things stop. But this sets our scene. We have now the loss already of some people who have been complaining. We don't know how many. But in this foment and concern that, here is someone who is taking care of them, and yet dangerous things can happen. And we know this about the divine, that you have to walk carefully, because sometimes what you do either brings you so close to the edge that your soul can't stay in your body, or is antithetical to the desire for holiness that is what our creation is about. And so if you're not careful, fires can happen. It's not good. But I think that's part of what we see in the Torah. So in this weird, unsettled moment in our people's history, we suddenly have the Asafsef. The Asafsef are these people. We don't know who they are necessarily. The rabbis suggest that they are Egyptians and other people who tagged along on the journey from Egypt to the Promised Land. Whoever they are, they have within them a ta'ava, a desire, some sort of a craving. And all we know is that they experienced this, and suddenly all of the Israelites around them began to cry, and they say, if we only could eat meat, if we only could eat meat, life would be so good. And then they go on, it's such a beautiful line. We remember, Zacharnu et hadaga asher nochal b'Mitzrayim chinam. We remember the fish that we ate freely, right? We could do whatever we wanted in Egypt, but they're forgetting that they couldn't. The transition to freedom gives them this funny sight where they can only see their immediate circumstances. So it's not that. It was wonderful in Egypt, and Moses pried them out and forced them to take this journey, but that it was horrible in Egypt. And they had to leave in order to become free people. But the freedom that they still feel in their heart is the freedom of the mouth, of the ability to ingest what they want. And this has been fomented by this the afsuf, the riffraff, the ones, perhaps, if we peel apart the Hebrew word, we have the nose and the reeds, the ones who went through the sea of reeds, but were following their noses, not their hearts. And they couldn't make it to the other side without holding on to the baggage from Egypt. And so they say, we have nothing to look at but the manna. And this actually may be their problem, is that they are using the wrong sense to get what is really important. Because the rabbis teach us that the manna, even though here it speaks of the manna tasting like cream, but the manna would become whatever you wished. And so it could taste like your fish or your malafafonim, your cucumbers. And that possibility somehow escapes our complainers. So Moses turns to God and says, where am I to get meat for these people? They aren't taking in the holy food. They can only see it. They need something that is exciting to their eyes, to their noses, as well as to their palates. They have not been able to separate themselves from the simplicity and enjoy the simplicity of what you are giving. And there is this moment where Moses is in despair. And just as before, when Yitro, Moses' father-in-law, says, you're working too hard, you need some help, so God says, gather together 70 elders, bring them, I will put some of your spirit into these people, and they will share the burden of the people. You don't have to do it yourself. And so this is exactly what happens. Two things, in fact, happen in response to this. One is that the Ruach HaElohim comes into these people and they are prophesying in the camp. And the other is, of course, that the quail are sent and they have so much meat that they can eat forever, for a month. And it's in this interesting moment where the people are doubting, Moses is doubting, that two men continue with the prophecy. And in doing so, they're Eldad and Medad. And in doing this, they attract not only the attention of everybody, but also of Joshua, who we've seen earlier, but who hasn't really been a particularly strong character, and who is going to take on that Ruach himself as he goes on to lead Israel. And he comes running in and he says, Moses, Moses, restrain these people who are prophesying in the camp. Stop the particular action from happening. It should be over. And Moses says, wait. I wish that everybody was a prophet. I wish that everybody had God's Spirit. And I think that we learn that it's really possible for us to do that, because immediately after that, what happens is the Spirit, the Ruach, comes from God and not only invests our 70, but sweeps the quail to the camp, and everybody eats. And it is as if that power can move back and forth between the people and the divine in these different ways, both in the investiture as well as in the eating and the tasting. So we learn from this portion that it's really important to do two things. One is to interact in a meaningful way with that which is around us. That we need to see the manna, we need to see God's beneficence. We do need to ask when there's something we need, when the meat is really lacking for us, and we need God's Spirit to come and restore us. And we also need to accept that sometimes things descend upon us and the effects last much longer than we anticipate. So this is a deeply rich portion. I feel like I've only begun to scratch the very, very top of it. But I want to leave you with a blessing that you all can see the holiness of your lives, that you can rise above the afsafsuf, and you can get past your desire for quail, and you can look and you can see that the presence of the divine is in the softly falling manna as well as in the wind that brings you the quail, and may both nourish and sustain you for this Holy Week. I will look forward to talking with you in the next Holy Week, although then we will have a Bar-Mitzvah and he has much wisdom. Shabbat Shalom.
We turn now to page 362 for the Torah service.
Elohim Adonai, Malchutecha, Malchut kol olamim, u'memsholtecha bechol dor vador. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Adonai oz le'moiten, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. Harachamim eitiva b'tzorecha et Zion tibenei chomot Yerushalayim yirecha levad batachnu melech melech Eron ve'Yisa melech melech Eron ve'Yisa Adon olamim, Adon olamim, Adon olamim, Adon olamim.
Vayehi bimtzo Aaron, vayomer Moshe, Kuma Adonai, vayafutzu oidecha, vayanusu mesanecha mipanecha.
Mitzion tetzeh Torah, Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, u'devar Adonai mirushalayim. Baruch
לך אדוני הגדולה והגבורה והתפארת והנצח וההוד כי כל בשמיים ובארץ לך אדוני הממלכה והמנשא לכל ראש.
Right, so the Torah reading today comes from Baha'atlocha, and it's Numbers chapter 10, verses 25 to 34, and you can find it in the Plaut on page 959. Ya'amod harishon, Leib ben Chaim, Likriyat HaTorah.
Adonai Hamvorach, Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher bacha banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato, Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. ונשא דגל מחנה בני דן, מאסף לכל המחנות לצבאותם, צבאו אחיעזר בן עמינדב, ועל צבא מטה בני אשר, ויעל בן אוכרן, ועל צבא מטה בני נפתלי, אחירה בן עינן. אלה מעשה בני ישראל לצבאותם, וייסעו.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tocheinu. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Then as the rear guard of all the divisions, the standard of the division of Dan would set out, troop by troop. In command of its troop was Ahizah son of Ammishaddai. In command of the tribal troop of Asher, Pagil son of Ochran. And in command of the tribal troop of Naphtali, Ahira son of Enan. Okay. Ya'amod sheni Eliyahu ben Yaakov, Likriyat HaTorah.
Baruchu et Adonai Hamavorach. Baruch Adonai Hamavorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai Hamavorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher bacha banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Vayomer Moshe lechovav ben Ruel hamidyani, choten Moshe nosim anachnu el hamakom asher amar Adonai oto eten lachem lecha itanu vehetavnu lach ki Adonai deber tov al Yisrael. Vayomer elav lo elech ki im el artzi ve'el moladati elech. Vayomer ana ta'azov otanu ki על כן ידעת חנותינו במדבר, והיית לנו לעיניים.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Moses said to Hobab, son of Reuel and the Midianite, Moses' father-in-law, we are setting out for the place of which the Eternal One has said, I will give it to you. Come with us and we will be generous with you. For the Eternal has promised to be generous to Israel. I will not go, he replied to him, but I will return to my native land. He said, please do not leave us, inasmuch as you know where we should camp in the wilderness and can be our guide. Ya'amot Shlishi, Yaakov ben Avram v'Sarah lekriyat haTorah. Yes.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך, ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד, ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בך בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו, ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
אמן. והיה כי תלך עמנו, והיה הטוב ההוא, אשר יטיב אדוני עמנו, והיטבנו לך. וייסעו מהר אדוני דרך 3 ימים, וארון ברית אדוני נושא לפניהם דרך 3 ימים, לתור להם מנוחה. וענן אדוני עליהם יומם, בנסעם מן המחנה.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו, ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. So, if you come with us, we will extend to you the same bounty that the Eternal grants us. They marched from the mountain of the Eternal, a distance of 3 days. The Ark of the Covenant of the Eternal traveled in front of them on that 3 days' journey to seek out a resting place for them. And the Eternal's cloud kept above them by day as they moved from the camp. We now turn to page 371. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill. This Shabbat, we think of Arthur Kruger, Barry Sinclair, Bobby Rachamin from Port Elizabeth, Chinumezi Mokona, Gail Saul and Ollie Saul, Irma Brenman, my aunt, Isaac Livney, Joey Kaplan, Lisa Kahanovitz, Michelle Ross, Molly Smith, Philip Mayers, and I would also like to add Aubrey Luntz to the list.
Mishe Perach Lavot
מקור הברכה לאמותינו. May the source of strength who blessed the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Exalt Torah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Israel. Al pi Adonai beyad Moshe.
We now go to the Haftorah reading, which will be read by Philip Mayers from Australia, and it can be found at Shacharit chapter 2 verse 14 to chapter 4 verse 7, and can be found in the plot on page 974.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar b'neviim tovim, v'ratza b'divreihem, hane'ma'arim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher b'Torah, u'v'Moshe avdo, u'v'Yisrael amo, u'v'neviei ha'emet v'tzedek. Praise to you, eternal our God, sovereign of the universe, who has chosen faithful prophets to speak words of truth. Blessed are you, eternal one, for the revelation of Torah, for your servant Moses, for your people Israel, and for prophets of truth and righteousness. This morning's Haftarah reading comes from the prophet Zechariah, chapter 2, verse 14. Zechariah preached sometime about 500 BCE in the land of Israel. The Haftarah ends with a vision of the candelabrum in the Jerusalem temple. Sing joyfully and be glad, fair Zion, for behold, I am coming to dwell in your midst, says the Eternal One. On that day, many nations shall join themselves to the Eternal and become my people, and I will dwell in your midst. Then you shall know that the God of heaven's hosts has sent me to you. The Eternal will take possession of Judah, God's portion in the Holy Land, and his silent dwelling place. God showed me Joshua, the high priest, standing in front of the angel of the Eternal. The accuser, Satan, was standing on the right side to accuse him. The Eternal said to the accuser, "The Eternal rebukes you, Satan. The Eternal who chooses Jerusalem rebukes you. Is not Joshua a firebrand plucked out of the fire?" Now Joshua stood before the angel, dressed in filthy clothing. The angel spoke up and said to his attendants, "Take those filthy clothes off him." And to Joshua he said, "See, I have taken off your iniquity and am giving you something new to wear." Then I said, "Have them put a pure turban on his head." They gave him a pure turban and new clothing, while the angel of the Eternal stood by. Then the angel of the Eternal solemnly exhorted Joshua. Thus says the God of heaven's hosts, if you follow my ways and carry out the service due to me, then you shall govern my house and have charge of my courts, and I will allow you access among these attendants of mine. Listen well, High Priest Joshua, you and your companions who sit before you. These men are a sign that I am bringing forward my servant, the seedling. Look at the stone that I have set before you, Joshua, a single stone with 7 facets. Now I am going to put an engraving on it, says the God of heaven's hosts, and in a single day remove the iniquity of this land. On that day, says the God of heaven's hosts, you shall all invite each other to sit under your vines and your fig trees. The angel who had been talking with me came back and wakened me, as a sleeper is awakened. He said to me, what do you see? I said, I see a lampstand, all of gold, with a bowl on its top. There are 7 lamps on it. There are 7 pipes for the lamps. By it are 2 olive trees, one on the right of the bowl and the other on its left. Then I said to the angel who had been talking with me, what are these, my Lord? And the angel who had been talking with me answered, saying, don't you know what these things are? No, my Lord, I do not, I said. Then he explained it to me, saying, this is the word of the Eternal to Zerubbabel, not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit, says the God of heaven's hosts. What are you, you great mountain? Before Zerubbabel you shall become a plain. He shall bring out the topmost stone, and seeing it, all shall cry, Chain, Chain, beautiful, beautiful. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, tzur kol haolamim, tzadik bechol hadorot, ha'el ha'ne'eman, ha'omer v'oseh, ha'medaber u'mekayem, shechol devarav, emet v'tzedek. Praise to you, eternal our God, sovereign of the universe, rock of all creation, righteous one of all generations. The faithful God, whose word is deed, whose every command is true and just. Al ha-Torah, v'yal ha-avodah, v'al ha-neviim, v'al yom ha-Shabbat hazeh, shenatah lanu, Adonai Eloheinu, l'kedusha v'limnucha, l'chavod u'tifaret. Al ha-kol, Adonai Eloheinu, anachnu modim lach, u'mevarachim otach. Yitbarach shimcha, v'fi chol chai, tamid le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha-Shabbat.
We are now going to go to the communal prayers. We have Prayer for the Nation, read by Lisa Kahonovitz, live in the shul. Prayer for the Congregation, read by Lucy Frank. Prayer for Israel, read by Van McCorney. Prayer for Animals, read by Rola Groneman.
Thus says the eternal God, this is what I desire, to unlock the fetters of wickedness and untie the cords of lawlessness, to let the oppressed go free, to break off every yoke. Share your bread with the hungry and take the wretched poor into your home. When you see the naked, give clothing and do not ignore your own skin. If you banish the yoke from your midst, the menacing hand, the evil speech, If you offer compassion to the hungry and satisfy the famished creature, then your light shall shine in darkness. O guardian of life and liberty, may your nation always merit your protection. Help us remember those who have lived in this land before us, and those who have made it their home in more recent times. Teach us to give thanks for what we have, by sharing it with those who are in need. Keep your eyes open to the wonders of creation, and alert to the care of the earth. May we never be lazy in the work of peace. May we honor those who have died in defense of our ideals. Grant our leaders wisdom and forbearance. May they govern with justice and compassion. Help us to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways that we may serve you. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and our country be sound in body and spirit. Amen.
For our congregation, source of all being, may the children of this community learn these passions from us: love of Torah, devotion in prayer, and support of the needy. May we guide with integrity, and may our leadership be in your service. May those who teach and nourish us be blessed with satisfaction, and may we appreciate their time and their devotion. Bless us with the fruits of wisdom and understanding, and may our efforts bring fulfillment and joy. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu she'otcha levatcha b'yara na'avod.
O Heavenly One, Protector and Redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all people who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love. Spread over it the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Establish peace in the land of the fullness of joy for all who dwell there. Amen.
Amen.
Prayer for animals. One of the great commandments is for us to protect the animals amongst us. Zah Ba'al Chaim, the protection of both wild and domestic creatures, those who bring us pleasure and comfort, as well as farm animals who toil in the service of humankind. May the great beasts of the wild be protected, not only for the sake of their species, but the pleasure they may bring to our children and our children's children. Please keep our pets safe from accidents, illness, and human cruelty. Help us to understand that their lives, while bringing us joy and companionship, are shorter than the human sojourn in this world. Thus we are often faced with sadness at their demise, and we pray that we should not be the cause of any suffering and hardships. Amen.
We now turn to page 374 to return the Torah to the Ark. Yahalelu et Shem Adonai, ki mishkat shemo levado.
Odo eretz v'shamlayim, vayarem keren le'amo tehila lechol chasidav lifnei Yisrael av keravo. Hallelujah, hallelujah.
Ki nekachtuv natati lachem, Torati, al ta'azovu.
Et hayili lamachazim lav, v'tocheha me'ushav, teracheha darchei noam, v'chol
עץ חיים היא למחזיקים בה בכל נתיבותיה
We now go to the Aleinu on page 586.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשינו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונה, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים עמה, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום לשם אותה אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחתיה עוד.
May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding, loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand, but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace. We now turn to the bottom of page 595. There are stars up above, so far away, we only see their light, long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember. Page 597. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost. the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. This Shabbat, we remember Anne Regaly, mother of Dr. Elgar Regaly, Charlotte Schrager, mother of Phyllis Seligman, Jeff Frank, husband of Lucy and father of Haley and Tracy Frank, Louis Jolson, father of Harold and the late Bruce Jolson, Laser Benjes, father of Gail Zaysky, Sonia Bergman, mother of Lola Groneman, Basil Benjamin, father of Sandy Meltz, Madeline Kling, aunt of Louis Kling and Amanda Douglas, Arnold Mendelowitz, partner of Marion Hassel, Leslie van Flyman, sister of Brian van Flyman and the late Jeff van Flyman, Sophie Meissen, grandmother of Michelle Dagnan, Sandy Suku, mother of Brad Suku, Elsa Rothenberg, mother of Herman Rothenberg, Junior Judah Tobakhali, brother of Jacob Tobakhali, Cleo Saul, remembered by Gail Saul, and from Pretoria, Gerald Abramovitz, brother of Oscar Abramovitz, Barney Druin, father of Heloise Kelly and grandfather of Lee Den Heyer and Darren Kelly, Chaim Josselowitz, grandfather of Alan Joss, Miriam Kleitman, mother of Shimon Kleitman, Rose Joss, mother of Alan Joss, Ralph Felix Gruenbaum, husband of Gail Gruenbaum. From Bet David in Durban, Lionel Schneier, husband of Kate Schneier, Chaim Blumstein, brother of Pearl Hall, Jacob Cunard, father of Ian Cunard, Dina Simpson, daughter of Jeff and Julie Simpson, Sylvia Perling, mother of Avril Binks, Miriam Schur, Ruth van der Venter, mother of Elizabeth Groot, Kate Meso, daughter of Fran Meso, Sasha Brazil, daughter of Glenn Brazil, Hilliard Edelstein, Albert Klein, father of Neville Klein, and those who passed away recently, Bruce Jolson, husband of Danny, father of Dorian, Carliette, and Angelique, brother of Harold and uncle of Wayne and Mark Jolson, Craig Allenby, son of Sylvia Allenby, nephew of Mylene McIntyre and brother of Sylvia de Kock, Mildred Goodman, mother of Aline Lipschitz and lovingly remembered by Stephen and Helen Kaplan. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be for blessing. Page 598. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, v'yamad divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayachon v'yomechon, v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach leolam ulmaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpo'ah v'yitrumam v'yitnaseh, v'tada v'taleh v'talal, shemei dekudashah brechu, le'elam min kol brichata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, da'amiran ba'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlomo rabba min shamaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, to which we say, Amen. You may be seated. Just a few announcements here. Thank you to Doron Kanar and Adam Stale for facilitating the streaming of the service, and to the congregants who participated, both live in the shul and via pre-recorded videos. Also thanks to Rabbi Salamo for her sermon. Bet David Kahila would like to thank the generous congregants who have made donations to their sandwich appeal. The Bet David congregation has once again shown its commitment to making a difference in the world. Let us continue to support the work of Kahila and help feed the growing numbers of hungry children in Alexandria. We appeal to all congregants of Bet David to help perform this mitzvah of Tikkun Olam by dropping off donations of fruit juice, concentrates, peanut butter and jam with a security guard at the entrance to Bet David. Monetary donations to Bet David Sisterhood will be very welcome. Mother Teresa once said, if you cannot feed 100 people, feed at least one. We conclude the service with the singing of Shalom Aleichem on page 627.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaShacharit, Malachei Yod, Mi-Melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bochim Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Yod. Melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Yod. Melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Yod. Mi-Melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
May it be your will, our God and God of our ancestors, that you lead us in peace and help us reach our destination safely, joyfully, and peacefully. May you protect us on our leaving and on our return, and rescue us from any harm. And may you bless the work of our hands, and may our deeds merit honor for you. Blessed are you, Eternal One, Protector of Israel forever. Baruch atah Adonai, Shomer Yisrael La'ad. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shalom U'Vorach, Shabbat Shalom, Shalom U'Vorach, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom.
Amen.